Welcome, friends, to episode 251 of Color of Magic, a Magic Gaming podcast where we talk about all types of issues. And boy, oh boy, are there going to be a lot of issues to talk about today for players at and away from their gaming tables and computers. I am your host, PowrDragn, and for 251 episodes, still got my man. I'm hoping he's surviving his 100-degree temperatures and keeping cool. Brian Sonic, how's it going, man?
Luckily, this is the time of the year where I don't go outside anyway with Madden, and this year we got the EA Sports College Football too. So there will be no. And then the NBA drops in September. So yeah, I have to take people's word for it about what the temperatures are outside.
Dude, I don't blame you. I remember living through that. What it was like, this was about 8-10 years ago, but it was at 90 days in a row of like 100 degrees or where it was during the summer. I was like, nah, like ain't worth it. Where it finally cooled down to like 92 and it actually felt cooler. It was like, oh, that's rough. I don't wish that on anybody. But before we get into everything, why don't you go by, give us some love over at patreon.com/colormagic, and you get a shout out just like Scott Ware. Thanks for being a patron. And man, I'm gonna let y'all know this episode, we're covering a lot of stuff. There's gonna be some magic stuff, some business stuff, some things going away, some political stuff. Like there's a lot to talk about this week. So brace yourself. You may even want to pause, grab yourself a drink, because we're gonna go through some things. But to start with, we're in a weird spot with Bloomburrow because everybody I've talked to, minus a couple of retailers, have pretty much all said that this has been an amazingly fantastic selling set. For many of them, it's been their best selling set since Lord of the Rings, which is crazy because Modern Horizons 3 also sold well. So that's saying a lot. But we're seeing the other side of that from the singles side that has kind of started some conversation this week. And it's that people are upset that now when they go draft or open a box, wherever, a bunch of the cards aren't crazy expensive. But part of that is because so much of it is being opened. And then it does make stuff cheaper for people to build decks for standard, which is a positive thing. But then some people are upset that the most expensive cards in the set happen to be the chase cards. And they want those rare chase versions, but they're mad that they're $50, $75, in some cases $200 or whatever to get those. And it's like, you can't really have it both ways. Like there has to be something that's collectible to chase down, right? We can't have everything be cheap. But at the same time, we've said we wanted Wizards to make stuff cheaper. We wanted reprints of stuff. We whatever. So people can build decks cheaper. Well, now they can. You know, I have a popular website I have up on my computer. I just put in some of the rares and mythics you might want to build a deck, and it's like $50.97. And that's assuming I have close to nothing for that deck. So it's like the fact that we can build reasonable decks right now for sure under $100, but in some cases under $50, like that seems positive. To watch people be mad about this, I don't even understand. Like, because Brian, like, wouldn't you want okay? Are we better off? And I'll get your opinion on this. Would you rather open more value per card, I guess, opening your boosters, or be able to buy and trade for stuff cheaper to build the decks you want?
Yeah, for me, I'm going to prioritize being cheaper cards, but then I don't really collect as an investment. I guess it really depends on what you want. If you're looking for to invest and be able to unload this for a bunch of money down the road, then yeah, I guess you want more chase cards.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat, right? Unless you're particularly using it as an investment, it's probably better to just have it be more affordable. Now, an interesting thing is this particular set being the one that's going to be, I'll say at least be more affordable for the foreseeable near future. I think with it being 3 years of standard, people will still want these cards and these decks. So over time, they'll come up a little bit, but that's still probably going to be 18 to 20 months down the road. But right now, that's actually a good thing because if this is a high acquisition set, the thing that's drawing the most people will have the cheapest decks, right? It's actually a really good scenario. Now, does it suck if you want the rare gilded planeswalker, whatever? Like, yeah, those are going to be pricey and it's unfortunate. But I think Wizards is in this strange balance situation where they have to print something for collectors, but still also try to have the game not get out of control price wise. And this seems like a reasonable balance because they have the what do we call them? The numbered card, the serialized cards. I don't care if I ever have those, but they're out there, and if people want them, they are paying in some cases thousands of dollars for them. Cool. It's awesome if you open one. It's a one in, I don't know, a billion chance to get one, several boxes. But if you get one, great. You got a little something. But yeah, I like, because dude, I gotta ask, like, is there a scenario where that matters more to you ever? To just like, okay, I gotta be able to draft, but I need to be able to get, I don't know,
I
at
hate
least,
drafts. So no, I'm
yeah, exactly.
already yeah.
That's the other thing too. That's a good
That's the
point,
thing.
right?
I am not good at drafts, so
I think that's another good
I
point though.
play to build my own deck, even if it's terrible, which it often is. But I enjoy like, okay, I'm gonna put all of this creature type or this mechanic or whatever thing, or especially if it's any kind of win condition. Okay, I'm sold. I'm gonna try whatever dumb win condition you send me.
See, it also makes it easier to experiment with those types of decks too, though,
But yeah,
right? Because those are going to be the cheapest of the cheap cards now.
exactly. Because I'm going to be one of the few people trying to. Well, what's the player type? Am I Timmy?
Yeah, Timmy's in it for fun. I
Yeah.
think there's another one that like the new classification they've had for like the person who's doing the experiments or whatever. But yeah,
Okay. So yeah, that's
yeah,
definitely the kind of player I am. So obviously,
that's
if
it.
I pull one of the expensive cards, oh great, I'll sell it to somebody who is far more excited to have it.
Sure,
Actively chasing those down pretty much ever. I'm not going to buy enough of the product to be able to chase those down.
but a lot of people I think forget that those that like draft also forget that the majority of players do not play draft.
Great.
They don't outside of pre-releases, they don't play limited play at all. So for the majority of people, cheaper singles is the good thing. Like that's not bad. So yeah, it's weird. I like people would ask me, and I'm like, I can't get on board with being upset at cards being affordable. Like, would you like there to be some more value? Like, sure, but the only way to solve that when a thing's being open to this quantity is really to just have either a bigger set, so there's just more cards to chase down, which people don't like that, or just make more of the rare versions of things. So you have instead of like 12 cards to chase, you've got 20 cards to chase or whatever it is. But yeah, I don't know. This overall seems like a positive time. I mean, you have a lot of people buying cards, a lot of retailers are making money. You're seeing a variety of decks, which is cool, and just tons of new faces. So yeah, I don't know. But this does kind of dovetail into the soapbox a little bit here. And one of the things I see, and it's not, fortunately, this is not the majority opinion. Like people tend to really like the set and are enjoying it. But the people that are against it seem to be mad and like this set sucks and blah blah blah. Like I get it. If you're a value person, then yeah, outside of the top, you know, 8-10% of the cards, there's not going to be a ton of money. You're going to be able to pick up a bunch of the rares for $1 to $5. But for the people that are mad at the set conceptually, I almost want to say just like you got to check yourself a little bit. Like I've literally seen people say like, "Oh, all these stupid animals, what are we, Pokemon?" And it's like, have you not looked at Magic for the last 20 years? Like,
Johnny's been a main character for how long now?
yeah, Johnny basically is a walking furry, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's I mean, like in a nutshell,
So
right?
while this particular plane may be new, I see creatures, anthropomorphic animals are in no way new. Almost every set has them.
Yeah, like even the creature types in the set, we have birds, owls, whatever throughout Magic. We have squirrels.
Rats have been a thing for good lord, how long?
Oh wow, we had a bunch of rats even recently in like
Kamigawa
Kamigawa and
is
stuff.
is
Yeah, so it's like, what are we even being mad at? Like, because you don't like the cute flavor of some of the cards? Like, okay, then just let other people enjoy it. Like, hell, none of us can sit here and say we've enjoyed wholeheartedly every single set, every single plane we've
yeah,
done
there's
of Magic.
no way.
But you let some people enjoy them more than others. That's totally okay. Hell, we're gonna do Duskmorn here in less than 2 months, and I'm just like, it's horror, whatever, not really my jam. But I know other people that are super excited about it already. I'm not gonna be mad at it and poo-poo it. I'm just gonna be like, cool. Y'all enjoy the hell out of it. I'll play with the cards still because they're magic cards.
Yeah.
But I'm not gonna be all into like big time over the top promotional stuff because it's not my thing. That's okay. Like, not everything is gonna hit for everybody the same way. But it's weird to be mad about it. Like, truly, to just be mad because there's some rabbits on a magic card. Like, it's mind blowing. And they will, like, I have watched these guys go full keyboard warrior and want to fight every person that's responding to them. And I'm like, how is this hurting you so bad?
Yeah, none of it's new. Okay, I guess maybe that they've never been front and center before. I guess is really the only difference. But
Yeah, I
the
guess.
various the various creature types have really been here. Cats, dogs, rats, birds have been pretty much the whole time.
But even then, like you say,
Snakes, you know.
Kamigawa had a bunch of rats.
Yeah.
Like, hell, even snakes in Kamigawa because we had the snake
Snakes,
people or whatever, right?
hydras. I mean, what is
Even further back, when you talk about like prophecy and those sets, or whatever, we had a whole group that was just birds,
yeah.
various bird people, right? That was a thing. So it's weird. So it truly is strange to watch people be so mad that they are wasting, because you can look at the timestamps. Like, they're coming back for hours and arguing with people, putting in time. Like, and I'm just like, a theme, unless it's doing something truly like, I don't know, ethically weird with the story or something. Like, I can't imagine being that mad to want to argue over it. Like, but again, some of these same people though.
Especially when it's moving like gangbusters. Okay, I could see yeah, Karloff Manor. There's
Yeah, yeah.
criticism. It was earned because it just didn't feel like a place anybody wanted to go. But clearly, people are excited about this. Sales indicate that. All the social media traffic indicates that people are excited about it.
Yeah. That's the other, to your point, that's the other part, right? Is if everybody's enjoying it but you like, maybe the set's not that bad. The same way that I'm going to look at Dustmore and I'm sure it's going to sell well because it's horror theme and whatever. And there's a pocket
Around
of people that,
Halloween time, so
yeah,
yeah,
they buy the hell out of their horror stuff. I'm not going to sit here and say it's trash. It'll get its sale and it'll do well. And I'll be
because
like,
we
cool, good for
understand like
them.
it's like, hey, especially if you go to the movies. What's going to come out during the Halloween, the October November period? Horror movies, because they do, other than superheroes, they are pretty much recession proof. If
Yep.
you do an even halfway decent horror movie and put it out around October, it's just gonna make a bunch of money. So if you're not into that, okay, October is not the time you want to go to the movie theater.
Exactly. And I don't. Right? But I'm not going to, when my friends that tell me they're going to see whatever movie, I don't be like, oh, y'all are just wasting your money. Oh, it's like, no, I just tell them have fun. See you when you get back. Or we'll plan something for tomorrow, whatever. It's not that big a deal. But anyway, I'm done. I'm gonna give you some time.
Boy, GameStop just keeps stepping in it on an almost weekly base, sometimes daily basis.
Yeah.
Just about what a week and a half ago, they were trolling us, because the Xbox 360 marketplace shut down, and then they're up here tweeting about, "Hey, bet you wish you had bought physical copies now." And days later, they fired the entire Game Informer staff. For those who don't know, Game Informer was their print magazine, was pretty much the largest print magazine covering gaming left. I think certainly in America, probably anywhere in the world at this point. And just the way it was done is that people were apparently on work-related trips out doing their job when they called the meeting. Oh, by the way, you're all fired. And I mean, if you go to the Game Informer website right now, it's just a farewell. The archives apparently are gone. Everything is just obviously we've known, that print magazines are having some of the same struggles that physical games are having. Nobody, I think, is really arguing with the financials. We're arguing more the way this was handled is not the way any kind of decent company treats its employees. You had to know this was coming. There's no reason for people to be out, on trips interviewing people. You're not wasting not just their time, but you're wasting the time of whatever developer or game designer is being interviewed by them. And again, you're still GameStop, right? You still got to work with these people, with the people that make video games. It's horrible. Why would you do it? And again, I mean, as part of my job writing for GameSide, I had just been in the Game Informer archive a few days before that to see, hey, anybody else remember this game? What were the reviews like? And to see that resource essentially vanish in a matter of seconds was just unconscionable.
Their whole thing leading up to this was weird because I remember seeing one of those tweets where they were talking about like physical copies of games or
Yeah,
whatever. And I even had the thought of like, most of the GameStops I've seen recently don't even have that many physical copies of games in them. Like,
there's
even
too
if
many
you wanted to
Funkos
buy
and
them,
T-shirts.
yeah, they've got Pokemon stuff and sports cards and, all kinds of
Yeah,
other things now. So it's like, how are you going to come and knock somebody for physical copies of things when you don't even have that many physical copies of stuff in your
it's
store
becoming
now?
harder and harder to distinguish GameStop from Hot Topic or or any other store that sells just random pile of nerdy things.
Yeah, that's basically what it is at this point. It's a lot of, you might still be able to go buy like peripherals, like if you want to
Yeah.
get controllers and stuff like that are still in there. But you'll see a lot of pop culture things, a lot of,
Obviously, you're going to be able to buy your Maddens and your Call of Duties there until the doors get shut one day, which I'm not
sure.
wishing on anybody, but that's just the way it is to be the way the industry is going. But try to go find something, like let's say from even 4 or 5 years ago, any kind of collector's item. There's no telling what you might go to the website. Nearest place that has this is 100 miles away.
Oh
That's
yeah,
not
at the very least, you used to go to GameStop if for nothing else, just to get used copies of stuff you might have missed or whatever, or
right.
something you just were nostalgic for and wanted to go play again. But like
Yeah.
they don't even have that. So it's like, how are you taking shots at somebody else? But I'm with you as far as shutting down Game Informer the way they did. It's wild, right? Like, and we had talked about this, I think, a few weeks ago about, you know, Paramount, I think it was like cutting loose and basically shuttering all the stuff from a couple of like Comedy Central and MTV or whatever that
Yeah.
stuff they've had archived. And it's just like these companies just going, yeah, cool. We're just wiping the slate.
Right.
Like, which is crazy. Like,
No
that's a ton
care
of
for
information.
history or culture or any of those things. And then you wonder why your company is circling the drain. It's bizarre.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. There's cultural significance to a lot of these things, especially like MTV, whatever. There's tons of
Yeah.
moments there, but
Game Informer, for example, had been in business in some form for 33. It literally predates GameStop owning the company because Game Informer goes back to when they were still Funko Land and then got bought out by GameStop. That's
mhm.
the level of history they just essentially burned to the ground without a second thought.
And having access to that, are moments in time, like interviews, being able to date when, how was a certain console or game or even character received among the
Yeah.
American public or whatever, right? Like having that is pretty cool. So it's weird to just like, I find it hard to believe you can't market that in some way. Like that somebody doesn't want to documentaries don't want that information, like something.
Or
Like
even if you don't necessarily want to market it, you telling me like GameStop can't afford to maintain the servers for
yeah,
this
true.
website for another couple of years.
Yeah, at
See what
least
that can be done with it,
yeah, that's
or
the thing. Pay for it while you at least shop it around or something. I mean,
just as
just
somebody that has been through this in the writing industry. These people got to go get jobs. They can't even access their clips because they had no idea they were about to be looking for work on at the end of the day Friday.
that's a good point. I mean, you didn't even have a
There
chance
might
to
be
grab the
something
links
there
or
might be an
whatever.
interview you just wrote that you're proud of, and of course you obviously probably meant to save it, but you had no idea you were going to be fired Friday.
Yeah, that's pretty
You,
tough.
at the point that they're one of the things they will tell you, how you know you're about to get fired is they stop assigning you projects and they'll take any project that you're working on away from you and give it to somebody else or just kill the project. Where they're telling you, hey, go interview Miyamoto, you are assuming When you're doing an interview on Friday, you're assuming you'll still have a job on Monday. So this just really feels like left hand of a major multi-billion dollar company having zero idea what the right hand was doing.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a lot of information, man. A lot of culture, a lot of time, and in that particular space, even as we're seeing, we'll just call it like geek culture, kind of take over more of general popular culture. That's information that could be good to have later for a lot of people. So it's really sad to see all that go away. But GameStop, like at the end of the day, like nobody's shocked that it happened. You
Right?
know,
The,
what do you do?
the pretty much weekly, sometimes daily, F this company moment from GameStop.
And it's tough because again, I'm not rooting for them to fail. I'm just
No,
sad watching them bumble constantly. That's where it's for me. It's almost like, I'm not mad at you. I'm just really disappointed. Like
right.
that's
Used to
that's
enjoy,
what the situation is.
on my lunch break, I might go to the nearby GameStop, buy a new game, open the shrink wrap. Read the instruction manual back in the day when that
Yep,
was the
yep.
thing.
Man, that's a rough one. But all right, let's talk about what we learned this week because I think we have two very interesting and different things that will be fun to share. So what do you got?
Yes, I've actually been playing a whole bunch of EA Sports college football. It is incredible. And talking to people like, hey, what offense are you running? Because, of course, with 134 teams, that's one of the big decisions of which playbook do you use. And UNLV kept coming up. And I had no idea UNLV was any good at football. So even after I, got the playbook, ran it, had won several games, but I still just had to feel like I just these are cool plays, but I feel like I'm not getting the whole thing. So I went and did more research. It turns out UNLV has apparently one of the highest powered offenses in college football right now. It's kind of affectionately named the go-go offense because they are just constantly moving. It's crazy. One of their formations has, two running backs on one side of the field. It's bizarre looking. There's another formation where the backs are split out with one, and this is a team where you might, on one play, they're running the power triple option, and the very next play, they're bombing you for 80-yard touchdown. It is a bizarre thing, but that's part of why the offense is so good, part of why the playbook is so much fun. Oh, and by the way, it's on brand because a brother, I was listening, Brendan Marion, came up with the offense and kind of took parts from high school teams he saw, took parts from college offense. At every level he tried to use this, people would tell like, okay, it'll work in high school, it'll never work in college. Then he coaches at Howard and it works. Well, okay, it'll never work Division One, so he's at UNLV now, and it's working at UNLV, and he's still people still tell it won't keep working. And so far, I think they won 9 games last year and made a bowl game. It's probably that was the first time in a long time. So yeah, so far, every level it's been said to not work at has been working.
It's only a matter of time before you start seeing that in the NFL. I feel like we see that all through everything in life, but particularly in sports, where people say, "Oh, well, this wouldn't work. It's just because these people don't have the skill." And then you take it to those people with the skill, and it's like, "Oh, well, this wouldn't work. It's just they're not pro level or whatever." And then you take it to pro level, and it's like, "Oh crap, it actually works." So now everybody at the pro level then scrambles to either copy it or deal with it. All right.
Anytime the defense doesn't know what the heck you are doing, the offense has an advantage. And they will
Yeah.
retain that advantage until the defense figures out what you were doing. And in the case of, where they've got multiple crazy formations and innovative plays and things because most offenses like, okay, yeah, they can run the ball down your throat, or maybe they got a great quarterback or receivers and they can, bomb you. They are one of the few teams who they can go, why not both? They can transform power option into, oh look, 80-yard touchdown.
I think the bigger thing is though, they don't need any of that, right? The offense gives them more leeway to be like, okay, maybe they are only, if you want to give them a rating, 7 out of 10. You don't have those
Right.
9 and 10 star guys or whatever. But because the defense is already scrambling constantly, then it's cool.
When you're wide open in the end zone, your player rating doesn't matter nearly
Exactly.
as
Exactly. Oh man. All right. So I was looking because MagicCon Vegas is coming up surprisingly soon because that's in October because the year's just flying by. And I was like, you know what? I wonder how much standard they're doing here because we did a big standard event last year, whatever, had it was well attended. Crazy Deck came out of it being the winner, so it was awesome. And then this year, there's only like 3 real standard events, one v one standard events that are available. And I was like, well, that was a little bit of a letdown when you're talking about supporting standard and Bloomburrow doing really well. But on the other hand, I will say the show is already looking like it's going to be a sellout. Like there are several events already selling out. Tickets, I assume within the next 3-4 weeks, we'll probably see them sending out stuff that like tickets are running low or whatever. But I'm beginning to wonder how big Vegas can be because we had over 12,000 in Chicago in the winter. We know people already like going to Vegas. We know the last few Vegas cons or Magic Cons Vegas were well attended. I don't think it'd be unreal to say this would be 15 to 17,000 if they made plans after seeing Chicago, expanding the space or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. This is a weird thing to me. Like obviously you're doing something right because you're putting some events people want, whatever. But I think we're getting into a part with standard where it becomes a little bit of a chicken and an egg, right? If you say, well, we want more people to already play it so we can do the bigger events, but then people are also saying they don't necessarily want to play because there aren't bigger events to play in. So it's like at some point you have to kind of go, okay, here's this small series of events that have this prize worth playing for to get people excited about. Otherwise, I think it's going to be hard motivating people. But I mean, we're still kind of weighing out the Bloomburrow effect, I guess. But yeah, it was just weird for me to see. I expected, now don't be wrong, I wouldn't expect to see a ton, but I would expected like 5-ish, so there's just like day 1 and 2, there's something in the morning and maybe late afternoon, early evening, and the same thing on day 2. And then, day 3, you just have one earlier because by late afternoon, people are leaving, trying to catch their planes, whatever. I think that would have probably made the most sense to me. But if it sells out anyway, does it even matter? That's kind of the other part where I come to. It's like, if I'm going down the list and I see a bunch of stuff already saying sold out, then like, whatever. Like it's working.
Standard is to use a wrestling analogy. Standard has become Austin Theory. The company claims they want it to get over. They keep saying they want Standard to get over, and it's possible they have no idea really how to get Standard over with the fans.
Maybe, it could be exactly that.
Because
Yeah.
I'm sure they want every format to be healthy in the same way WWE wants every wrestler to be somewhat popular. But if you have no idea how to do it,
You know what it is? It's probably more like NXT, where like everybody's into it, knows how good it is, but it's hard to get people that play the other things or watch the other things to tune
yeah.
into NXT every week. That's sort of what it feels like. That's probably a close analogy.
And according to, Pat McAfee, DLC participant Ty Schmidt, they're just a bunch of losers on NXT anyway. Nobody wants to see that.
Yeah, that's weird too, because if y'all ain't been watching NXT, they have some bangers over there.
Right?
Like, have you seen that chick, Sol Ruka, I think is her
Yeah.
name? Oh, she is unreal.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. She's
dude,
incredible.
I watched her do this crazy, like, flippy thing into the corner, then flip backwards off of
Yeah.
it into like a neck
It was
breaker or
all
whatever.
over my Twitter. Like, yeah, just.
Like, I'd never seen somebody run up a corner, backflip, like basically RKO somebody all in one move. I literally just
She
went,
is
that's cool.
phenomenal.
I'm turning this off now. I'm not going to see anything else better than that today.
No lie.
Like, that's it.
I'm
I'm
hoping she's
done.
not going to be like Standard in Magic 2 years from now. Like, whatever happened to Saul Rico? They still say that they're trying to get Saul over. Just because that's.
Dude, we just saw what's his name on Raw this week who got called up like 2 years ago and didn't even get he was
Odyssey.
Odyssey Jones. He was there with the New Day. And when
Yeah,
he came out, I went, "Oh, he's still employed with WWE. Cool."
yeah, I saw he's going to be Big E 2.0, looks like.
That's fine. I could live with that. But like it was so weird because I literally saw him and went, "Oh, I didn't even know he was even still employed. I
Yeah.
thought they fired him or something."
Because he didn't get this push until I guess Big E confirmed he had talked to his doctors he's not going to try to wrestle anymore. Which for Odyssey Jones is a huge opportunity.
Oh yeah, for sure. And Big E's been killing it on special appearances and commentary,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Anyway, so they've already kind of found a home
He's
for him.
always been great on the mic. So yeah, at that point, there's really no reason to risk further injury. Big E is an awesome dude. We want him to stay healthy.
Also, by the way, did you see the post show after the pay per view? Because they had
I
a
did. Yeah.
Big E's 5 count, like just top 5, and I was like, oh, that's a good throwback.
Right.
Like, oh, people probably don't remember what that is. But yeah, let's get into some topics here because this is a week of a couple of really tough ones, truthfully. All right, so this first thing has been kind of a thing for a minute, but now it's become to the point that people can actually pay for these services regularly. And it's the fact that you can now have somebody CT scan booster packs. So effectively, it's like a CAT scan X-ray type thing. And I thought about this, and on the surface, it's like, okay, cool, a neat thing you can do. But the more I thought about it, I just thought, is anything that's just not nefarious going to come out of this?
Yeah, it's just anything you would do with this feels like you're trying to get over on somebody.
Right?
And
Like,
and it feels bad.
I believe there's some small percentage of people that will have like a rare first edition Pokemon pack or something, or some old Magic pack. They're just curious about, some collector's booster or whatever. That they're gonna save it, but they're just kind of curious what's inside and they don't want to open it. Like some number of those people will pay for it just to know, right? But outside of those few people, I was seriously trying to think of who else really wants to like take their rare packs or booster boxes or whatever and go have them scanned, especially because it's not cheap. Now, I've heard there's people that will do it in the $45-$50 range, but only thing I could find and what I've seen quoted in a couple of recent articles for people who've actually looked into it was $75.
Yeah, because these are stop people from dying machines. So if you're making them stop and using it for its intended purpose to go scam magic cards, then that ain't gonna be a cheap service.
Yeah, so you have to also be doing packs that are already one super rare and worth a lot, and have the potential to open something that's at least a couple $1,000s. Or else you're not going to pay $75 to have it look at because you're going to probably have to scan at least half a box worth or whatever, right? So there has to be thousands of dollars involved. But once let's say somebody takes a first edition Pokemon booster and they're like, okay, I'm going to find out if mine has the first edition Charizard or whatever in it, right? Who wants to go get that information that's not going to try to get over on somebody? Because they're going to scan everything and then now they know the other ones don't have the Charizard. So they'll put those to go sell or on display or help, Facebook Marketplace or who knows where else, right? Because they know they're not losing value and they can hold the one or open the one that has this first edition Charizard now, right? I can't imagine anybody else is going to do it. Now, the good news is if you're a place that has a reputation for being positive and people can trust your product or whatever, maybe this becomes more business for you when it comes to sealed products because people will know you're not doing anything crazy. But I think this could reach a situation where it could be hard trusting some loose packs you see in whether that's at shows or like I said online, whatever. It's gonna probably become a problem. And it's one of those things that I can't say it's wrong to exist. It's just some people are probably going to use it for no good, unfortunately.
Like you said, almost everybody. Because I can't think of a non-nefarious. The least sketchy thing I can think of is maybe you want to do a pack opening on stream, but even that, you're in theory giving the impression that you don't know what's in the
Yeah,
packs, and you know. So it's
that's a good point because even that's disingenuous, right? It's like you're going to fake being surprised that you opened the Charizard, but you kind of knew it was in the pack anyway, right? So it's like I don't fault anybody who has the CT machines or whatever because you're just going to make money from whatever people want to come scan the packs. You don't know what they're doing with it, whatever. And we talked about this a little bit, but I do remember reading a story several years ago of people that had other types of medical machines and they would rent their services to different medical facilities or like the camps that set up to give people like cheap medical treatments and stuff. So that is a thing that exists in the world that you can buy the services of people who own these various machines apparently. So it's not that weird. It's just kind of odd that people are going to be using it for booster packs or sealed product of any variety. Now, as far as I could tell, it mostly works with the stuff that has some type of extra material in it, whether it's like the foiling of a booster of a foil card, or some of the stuff they insert into collector stuff, like the Panini boosters that they'll have like a piece of a jersey or a baseball bat or whatever. Some of that stuff apparently can still be seen a little bit, and you can tell. So I don't know how it would work on just a regular card. Like if we were going to open a, I don't know, 1950s Topps booster or something to find an old Honus Wagner or something crazy. Like I don't know if that's even possible, but I'm sure once people start paying for the services, people will find a way to try to figure it out, because then it becomes more money. But
Now for the really old ones, because I think these machines use either it's X-ray
yeah,
radiation, like I guess MRI magnetism. If the card's really old, that might be able to damage it. If you're talking about
that's
cards from
that's
the
fair.
early 1900s,
That's a good point. I mean, it probably hasn't been tested on anything that old yet, so an X-ray machine could cause problems. I mean, I don't know
plus you
the
got to
answer to
trust
this
your
actually.
CAT scan person to not to know, because that's not what they deal with every day. They deal with human beings who, yeah, they're kind of fragile, but certainly not as fragile as a pack of bubblegum cards from aught six,
Yeah, I don't know how that affects the ink, how it affects the bubble gum itself, if that would do something and then affect the cards. Like, I don't. That's a good thought. Like, I'm literally going like, I for real don't. Now I'm curious because I for real don't know. But I would think, like I said, realistically, it's going to be for stuff like those super rare, couple $100 a pack Panini things or whatever. It'll be for some of these old first edition Yu-Gi-Oh things. Maybe some, as we get a couple years down the road, somebody could try it with the Magic Collector's boosters, because those do have a lot of foils and stuff in them if you're chasing certain things. But yeah, I just don't like things that now make me have to question stuff even more. And that's exactly where this falls. Like, I like just being able to do business and not have to worry about stuff or whatever. And now it's like, well, if I'm getting a deal that's too good, why is it too good? Now I have to ask that other layer of of questions, right? On older stuff. So that's a tough one. I'm not happy about it. I don't like it.
No, sir, not a bit.
But let's talk about Mr. Beast. Because man, we brought him up a couple weeks ago because he had stuff going on with people in his crew or whatever. And now there are piles of other things coming out all at the same time. So you had heard about a thing that was also different than the thing that I heard about. So like,
Yeah.
why don't you talk about what you know about that part of it, and I'll talk about the other portion.
Yeah, apparently some of Mr. Beast's old videos, basically before he became the Mr. Beast that we know, and that's quite famous on YouTube, where apparently he made some off-color jokes about having sex with the rapper Bad Baby. If you don't know her, she's probably know her as the Cash Me
Yep.
Outside girl from
Catch me
Dr.
outside.
Phil,
How about that?
right? Noted meme rapper, and also OnlyFans. Incredibly owning a whole bunch of earning a whole bunch of money on OnlyFans. But yeah, made some inappropriate jokes about that. Apparently, there's some inappropriate racist jokes that I don't think that he necessarily made, but I guess some people in his chat may have made a whole bunch of stuff happening. It's just all, and once they start digging into one aspect of your empire, it's not long before all of the stuff. As I said, it's before he became, quote unquote, Mr. Beast. He was still trying to find himself on YouTube, and it sounds like at least some of that was doing some kind of edgy humor. And I mean, as I've warned, when you do edgy humor, those are the risks you kind of encounter. Like, okay, yeah, I'll say on the high end, you could become, an Anthony Jeselnik, or on the extremely high end, Andrew Dice Clay. You young people will have no idea who we're talking about. But yeah, he was in, I guess, like 90s, really one of the most popular, incredibly filthy comics out there. And then one day it's just kind of, hey, wait, it's all of a sudden it's, I don't know, 1997 or 1998, and nobody cares about this anymore. It goes away really fast, because the late great Milton Berle always said the joke better be funny before you add the curse word to it.
Yep. It's kind of, it was a big deal for even Richard Pryor to do those movies with Gene Wilder because it was like, we got to clean up your image somewhat so you're a little bit more marketable, right? Because if you go watch Richard Pryor stand up, like, while it's
Right.
funny, it's raunchy.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
so it's just like, whoa, this is a little bit much. Let's see if we can get you into these fun movies or whatever. And
Every comedian probably has a story about, or at least every comedian in my age bracket has a story about hearing Richard Pryor, or if you're a little bit younger, hearing Eddie Murphy before you were supposed to hear Richard Pryor, like kind of sneaking out the door, in your bedroom,
Mhm.
trying not to laugh too loud because you're supposed to be asleep.
Yep, same thing with Eddie Murphy. Because man, who Eddie Murphy raw? Like,
Oh
who,
yeah,
bruh, it's raw for real. Like people, like y'all know Eddie Murphy today. Y'all don't know nothing about '80s Eddie Murphy. Y'all need to
right.
go back and check that out.
And then, the irony of Bill Cosby always telling Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor what they should be doing or how
Mhm.
they should be talking. And as it turns out, I think one of Richard Pryor's numerous wives said the reality is that Bill Cosby pretended to be a family guy, but was an absolute piece of trash. Whereas Richard Pryor pretended to be like a pimp, but was really deep down a nice guy. So
Yep.
that's
But I think, bringing it back to your original point is that if you're not planning to make, let's call it edginess, your brand, then don't start out that way.
And I guess at the time, he probably didn't even know what his brand was. So he
Sure.
probably thought that was going to be the way he was going to get over, and then found out no. It turns out he'd become famous, for curing cancer and,
Yeah,
and helping
exactly.
blind people see. And at the beginning, you certainly couldn't have envisioned that's the way things were going to go. But now you gotta,
Yeah, but that's
you
always
gotta
there,
answer
and
for
you're gonna
that.
have to apologize for it. Hell, we've seen it even with what's his name? I was gonna say the really short comedian that was hanging out with Snoop Dogg at the Olympics. Um, oh gosh, I don't know why I can't remember his name right now. But we had that same issue where you told some jokes in the past, even
Oh, you
though
talking
they're
about Kevin Hart?
yeah, even though those were way in the past, and you've already apologized for them, you're still gonna have to answer for them because they're there, right?
Yeah.
And that's tough. Even though it's not your image, not your, and you're talking about
Yeah.
people that have people, the public adores them at this point,
Right.
and it's still a thing. So like that stuff sticks with you, man.
Like
It's
we talked
it's
about a few weeks ago, MTG Remy, I guess, thought he was going to blow up, on Steven Crowder's podcast. Turns out the thing that got him over was doing, parodies of popular songs with magic cards.
yep.
Then, the other stuff surfaces, and for at least a little while, you got problems.
Yeah, it's tough, man. And again, I won't say this like directly just you undoes everything he did because obviously he's done a lot of positive, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
stuff you got to answer for too.
Yeah.
Like was it just when you were young and dumb and trying to find your way? Were you trying to fit in with different groups? Whatever it is, but like you're gonna have to give some explanation.
And we may be at the point, especially in the short term, where it probably costs MrBeast some brand deals as he
Oh,
tries
sure.
to.
Sure.
There will be some people that are just like, obviously, let's say you were going to do a fundraiser, maybe, let's say something, against human trafficking. MrBeast is not the guy you want to put up front right now with these
Yeah.
allegations dropping.
And it's what I don't think people understand too is the bigger you get, the more that has an impact. Right. So any deal he doesn't get right now, I'd venture to guess is multiple millions. Like we talked about it before, his videos are getting so many views in some cases. He has a hard time even pricing his stuff because if he tries to price fairly by market value, he's almost too expensive for people. So that's hundreds of thousands, if not millions, on some of these videos, right? Because some of the videos are getting as many or more viewers than the Super Bowl.
Right.
Right? Like think about how crazy that is to say out loud, right?
Wizards gave him some money a while back to
Yeah,
do content for them. And we've talked about like that's the double-edged sword of using the celebrity is like you don't necessarily know everything that's back there, whereas somebody that's done primarily magic content, like I at this point, uh, I'm hoping, well, I don't want to jinx anybody. Let me just not, because as I said, we just had it happen to a bunch of content creators, and you never know.
Yeah. Now the other thing that came up, and these things started circulating a couple weeks ago because Mr. Beast is working on a giant game show which has 2,000 participants, and the winner's supposed to get $5 million or something, some crazy thing they're putting together in conjunction with Amazon and their Prime network. And supposedly, now again, these are people who are speaking anonymously because they signed NDAs and all that stuff. But there are all types of things that sound like they were going wrong on that set that they shot in Vegas. I think they got down to a certain number and they're going to finish the shooting. I think they said in Toronto for probably for one of the challenges or something or whatever. But and it's all things from like people talking about food or inadequate supplies or medical issues from people getting hurt on some of the challenges or whatever. And to me, the more I read about it, it sounds like he did a very bad job of delegating, which you're still responsible for. I'm not saying that absolves him, but I see it all the time. And I also had this problem when I started out running a business. Is that you think you have the vision, you're going to do it better, you want to be the point of contact for everything, but ultimately you kind of have to put people in charge of things that are just good at those other things. And I think that's always an issue with a lot of business owners. And at his level, you need to have like that should have a person for dealing with, the point person for all the talent, right? You should have a point person for all the wardrobe. Should have a point person for dealing with the regulations on set. Point person for dealing with the set building and the crews and whatever. You should have had like 10 or 12 people under you, and you have your like maybe not daily, but at least weekly or bi-weekly meetings to check in on everything. And if somebody needs something or needs to get something paid for, they can run it by you. But like this sounds like stuff literally that was easy to deal with that just got neglected in a lot of cases. And that's not good. And sure, it's Amazon, they got billions of dollars and whatever, who cares at the end of the day, but it still sucks for all the people involved, that they had to deal with all this. So we'll find out, I'm sure, over the next couple weeks how much of it is real, how bad the situations were. Some of
Yeah.
it we probably won't find out till the show goes live, and then people can kind of see where some of those things would have happened, and
In
can
the
start
case of
people
some of
start
the videos,
forgetting.
you can't delete the internet. They're out there. He's having to apologize for that as we speak and try to put out those fires. I guess we'll find out exactly how many of those videos, because again, you can't, once it's been out there, it's always, you're always able to find it somewhere.
Yep. And I'll tell people this is a good example of like, and I'm not here just gonna poo-poo the whole MrBeast empire or whatever, because that'd be silly. But it also is a reminder to like, hey, be careful how high you want to build a pedestal for somebody. Right? We talk about you shouldn't be idolizing people or whatever, because like you just never know. Right? Everybody's fallible. Hell, I tell people all the time when people try to, oh, you're great, where it's like, hey, I'm a dude. Right? Like I know I've screwed up. So like I ain't even gonna try to lie to you. Right?
I'm a
Like
dude. He's a dude. She's
yep.
a dude. As a philosopher Kel once said, we're all dudes here.
Mm-hmm. It's tough, man. It's tough. So yeah, and it's also hard from the creator side because especially as you start ramping up like he has, people
Yeah.
will put you on the highest of pedestals. And there ain't no way you're gonna live up to that. So you got to live with that too if there's that pressure that's there. So yeah, that's a tough one. But all right, let's wrap the show up in the dinner table because we have a very interesting political situation to talk about. And the meme of like I didn't know this was going to be on my 2024 bingo card.
Right.
Well, I'll say this: we're going to get a bit political, I'm sure here. So if you don't want to hear about politics, this is your chance to hop off. I appreciate you watching or listening, however you're consuming this today. However, the Republican vice presidential nominee JD Vance had his wife doing some type of interview. I can't remember with what network it was, but she mentioned that he plays Magic. And that in and of itself isn't that weird. A lot of people play Magic. But then it
I don't know
started,
how many vice presidential candidates play Magic. That's the
yeah,
first
I
one
don't know.
I'm familiar with.
That's a good question. Like, as far as like at the
I'm
higher
gonna say he's
political
probably the
offices.
first. There might be some senators, that are in the age range or that's the thing,
Yeah,
but
that's probably true.
I'm
That's
pretty
probably
sure
true.
he's the first vice presidential nominee ever to have played Magic the Gathering. I feel pretty comfortable in saying that.
Yeah, I bet that's true. I find it hard for like it couldn't be
Maybe I'm
more.
wrong.
I'm just thinking about
Maybe
other
Hillary.
people that have been
Uh,
president or vice president, and like most of them don't fit the demographic, so probably
Maybe
not.
Hillary and Tim Kaine were secretly playing playing MTG somewhere, but
I mean, I could see a world if you told me like a Tim Kaine had like sampled it 30 years ago when it came out, but to be an
hey,
actual player, that'd be hard. That'd be
and to be
difficult.
clear, we're taking his wife's word for it. We don't know.
Yeah, that's true
We
too.
don't know how often he gets a pod together. But
Well,
again, the fact that anybody that could potentially be number two to the nuclear codes has played Magic is already mind-boggling in and of itself.
yeah, and I did a little bit of deep diving because there's the free Magic Reddit, which is always a mess. So I'm sure
Yeah.
I'm like, I knew this was going to be a discussion over there. And then there's another like Magic one where people just like talk about random things that come up in Magic or whatever. So I did a little bit of a deep dive, and there were people who knew him that had played Magic with him, or at least claimed to. You know, they're from the same area, they knew the local stores or whatever. So I'm assuming they probably did at some point. They didn't necessarily like him. You know, they talked about him being a snooty guy and all this stuff. Like, okay, that tracks. So he isn't, or at least at some point in the past, was an actual player. Some of them talked about him playing much when he was much younger. So I don't know how much recently he's played, but it is a thing.
Yes, probably. I'm sure he still has hobbies, but I don't know how much he's been. Now he's got security details, so
Yeah,
you can't play Magic with him without being frisked.
for sure. So that's probably not going to be a thing now. But it did create some interesting conversations online where some people are like, "Oh, well, now him being one of us has like set us back so long or whatever," and it's like, I don't know how accurate that is because I mean, music I listen to or other hobbies I have, like people of all types are involved with them. That doesn't mean that like everybody thinks that way or is that way. So that I wasn't giving much thought to, but it did raise the question of would he be welcome at your table? And I had to really think about that, dude, because like my first thought was if I'm at an event and I'm working and he shows, I'm not just going to be rude or whatever. I'm going to do my job, right? Like we're going to play games.
Exactly.
I got to sign stuff, do whatever. Like, yeah, we're going to do our thing. It's fine. I'm not going to be rude to you just because, politically we're not on the same side or whatever. Like, whatever. But then I started thinking about what if I'm putting together a game or I'm inviting 10 or 12 friends over to a gathering or whatever. He probably can't be invited to my game because of personal views on things and history and people he supports. Like some number of people in my collection of folks that I would send an open invite to would probably be multicultural backgrounds. Some number are going to be gay and or trans. Some number will probably have, if they're not immigrants, immigrant parents or grandparents. So it's like that would just create a weird tension that I just wouldn't need in my games. Like it wouldn't make sense. I mean, now I don't know if it makes a difference for you or not, but like
Thing
that
is,
was my perspective.
as we mentioned, I live in Texas. JD Vance or somebody that agrees with him on every single position is already at my table.
Sure.
Those are just the numbers.
Mm-hmm.
If I sit down at any table in pretty much any Magic playing establishment within 700 miles, it's going to be minimum 50% Republican, probably closer to 55-60% Republican. Those are just the facts of the matter. The difference between them and JD Vance is I already know what his politics are. The average person I'm sitting down with, we're not going to even have the discussion unless, and again, in most cases playing Magic, when is it going to come up?
Yeah, and see, and that's kind of the other part that I can relate to that, right? Well, obviously, having lived in Texas, run a store in Texas, run tournaments in Texas, right? We saw a lot of that. Hell, I've talked about it before. I've been called the N word by parents of kids at my events or whatever, right? So, like, I know it's a thing. But we've talked about it before. We have a mutual friend who just turns out he supported a lot of people that had some very awful thoughts, right? And still pushes them and supports them or whatever. And it's like, man, that's somebody who I do know on a very personal level that we literally broke bread together. I mean, like literally, like, was around when his kids were there and whatever. Like, and even people who also have this mutual friend, we've had conversations. They're like, man, I don't know how comfortable I am inviting him over for stuff now. Or like, can I trust certain things now? And I thought about, I was like, that is tough. Like, because one of the things I've said about the political climate right now that I at least appreciate is that we're going to call them the bad actors, or at least exposing themselves. And I know who to stay away from, right? Because in Texas, unless you had a, I don't know, what would Bubba do sticker on the back of your truck or something, like, I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just hoping you're chill, but at least now when you're labeling yourself, whether it's with a hat or whatever, like, I at least know now, like, and that's kind of the case,
And I
right?
guess, because, my full-time job for a long time was local newspaper reporter, I pretty much knew everybody's political background because we went to all the same events. They would send me, I knew which candidates, whose fundraiser they invited me to. So obviously, if you're inviting me to, well, back then, not Trump, obviously, but back then, if you're inviting me to the Mitt Romney or the George Bush fundraiser, okay, I know what your politics are, and yeah, ours don't align.
Yeah. And I think that's the other thing too. Like, I don't personally care that we don't see eye to eye on everything politically, right? We talked about off the air about, you know, back when you saw Obama running against McCain and Romney, like, those were all respectable dudes, right? As humans, I respected them, didn't have a problem with them. They weren't hateful, whatever. But when somebody expresses hateful stuff,
Yeah.
well, and I don't care if you're on my side of the aisle or not. Like, I know some people who identify as being liberal that are still garbage humans,
It's
like,
also true.
and they are also not invited to my games. So I
Yeah.
don't want this to be just like I'm not inviting Republicans to my game, because like there's people on both sides of the aisle that are not welcome in my house. I will tell you that right now. Like, I'm thinking of a couple right now as I say that.
We're
So
probably thinking of some of the same people because we
probably
have a fair
so
amount of mutual
for
friends.
real, there are some that will just never get that invite. So this is more of a like personal thing and things that he
Yeah.
has expressed, even as of
And
today,
it's
some
and
stuff he's
and
done on
it's
social
the thing
media.
with so many of these various different hypotheticals are hypothetical. In reality, he won't be at our table
Oh
because
yeah,
he might be in the White House for the next 4 to 12 years. We don't
sure.
know. We won't travel the same circles for a long time, if ever.
Oh yeah, like the reality, unless he happens to be really, and I'm at an event that's probably in his town somewhere,
Yeah.
the odds of us even crossing paths are next to nothing. And even in that scenario, it's probably still less than 1%. So it's like it's probably never going to happen. But I do think it is an interesting thought process, right? Because for me, it's not just about political alignment. Because again, I know Republicans, some of them that are decent people, right? So it's not just that; it's that the particular views that have been expressed and the behavior, his history, whatever, that I'd be like, yeah, I wouldn't have him at my table. I just, I think it'd just be too uncomfortable and too weird for too many people. I just couldn't do it.
Yeah,
I
and I
probably,
understand.
some people say I probably shouldn't care, but
Yeah.
man, we're having a good time. We're trying to play a game. Like, I don't invite that tension in my life at all, to be honest, with anything. So like, there's no way he'd get a seat at my table. Like, hell, again, I don't care if you're a Democrat. Like, there's some people you just
Well,
have enough
yeah,
of an
some people
attitude
are.
that you just ain't never getting an invite to my house.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't need that in my life. But anyway, you know what they do need in their lives? They need to know how to find you on social media.
All right. I am Brian Sonic on Twitter, YouTube, Instagram. You can also read all my stuff over at GameSighted.
Yeah, I hope that's going well for you, dude. That's a good gig to lock down. But you can find me everywhere at PowrDragn, PowrDragn. I'm still doing a ton of stuff right now with Bloomburrow. I have a bunch of stuff coming down the pipe, and you'll be able to catch me at future Magic events because those are coming up soon too. But as always, wherever you are watching or listening, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Please remember to take care of yourselves and your family. Remember to be awesome, and most importantly, be awesome to each other.